In this lesson 3-2, we want to review or learn how to add, subtract, and multiply polynomials. So let's start with this example number 1. We want to add those two polynomials, and the main thing is to use the commutative and associative properties to regroup the terms. Notice you're trying to put together terms with the same degree. So 6x to the third power on the left and 2x to the third power on the right. They are put together. And then the blue term is by itself. There is no other term with degree 1. But then we got degree 2 right here, the green terms put together and the constants put together. So after we do that, we can just let the calculator do their work, even though I'm hoping that you guys can do 6 plus 2 equals 8. The 4 stays as it is, but then 1 minus 8. Notice here there is a 1. So right here there is a 1, and 1 minus 8 gives you that -7. The calculator will tell you what the answer is. Same as in here, the calculator will tell you that's -4. So notice that when you're adding a negative, you just put the negative number there. So you don't put two double signs like plus -4. You could, but you always use the simpler way. So that is all it is to it. So hopefully it won't look too hard for you. So how do you subtract? Well, it's basically the same idea, the only thing is that you will be not adding but subtracting. So you're gonna regroup. Notice how this, before we regroup, so this negative right here, if I wanted to write this same expression without the parentheses, what I'm thinking is maybe like, you can imagine you have a -1 there, so you're multiplying -1 times each one of the terms. So the terms inside will change their sign. So these 2x to the second power, y to the second power was positive inside the parentheses. Now without the parentheses will be negative, and that -1 times this positive will change that sign, that plus sign, into a negative, and this minus sign, that -1 will change it into a plus sign. So once you have it there, all you're doing is basically you're writing the same problem as we did before. We are grouping like terms. Notice in this case we got x squared times y to the second power y squared. So I'm looking for other terms with the same variables and the same exponents. And after that, the calculator will tell me, well, 3 minus 2 is 1. I don't write that 1 right there. But then 2 minus 3 is -1. So 2 minus 3 is -1. We don't usually write the 1 there, but we got a negative. And then 6 plus 2 equals 8. So adding what is called the coefficients of those terms will give us the answer. So let's practice a little bit. So if you want to practice, you can come here, and well, first of all I need to do this, and please try to do those two. Okay, so I will move on to the next example, which is about multiplication. So let's see how we multiplied. And you might remember this from Algebra 1. So here we're multiplying a binomial, it's got two terms, times a trinomial, 1, 2, and 3 terms. So let's see how that's done. So we're gonna start like multiplying, first of all, that distributive property, the 2m times all these this trinomial here, and then I'm gonna plus the blue term times the same trinomial. So I'm just using distributive property. And what I do here is to distribute one more time the red term times each one of the terms inside. You will see that happening right here. So when you multiply 2 times 3, that's 6. Do not forget that here's exponent 1. And when you do exponent 1 and exponent 2, you add the exponents. So m to the first power times m to the second power equals m to the third power. Then you do plus 2m times negative 4m. So if you think about signs first, positive times negative gives you negative. 2 times 4, that's 8. And then m to the first times m to the first will be m to the second power. You continue till you finish with all the terms inside. So now you're missing positive times positive, which is positive, 2 times 2, which is 4, and you only have one variable, so you write it over m. Then you do the same thing with the 5. 5 times 3, 15m to the second power. It is positive, so it will not change the sign of any of these terms. So this was positive and still positive. This was negative and still negative. This one is positive and still positive. The sign only changes when the number you're multiplying by is negative. So in this case, 15, then 5 times 4 is 20, 5 times 2 is 10. So that is, now that you have multiplied, then you have to combine like terms. So that makes sense. Now, hopefully, it makes sense why we learned how to add and subtract, because we gotta put together terms with the same degree. So we don't write an answer without simplifying or combining like terms. You are supposed to have only one term for each degree, no more than one. So in this case, I got 1 degree 3, but there are 2 that have degree 2. So I gotta put those 2 together. Negative 8 plus 15. The calculator will tell you what that is. So negative 8 plus 15 equals 7. And then the linear terms, these are, you can call the quadratic terms. These are the linear terms. So 4 minus 20 equals negative 16, and that's the plus 10 right there. So that is it. That is gonna be your answer right there, final answer. So notice that when you multiply, you're actually first you're using distributive property, but then at the end you have to combine like terms, right? So that is one problem. But can we multiply like a binomial times a binomial times a binomial? So can we do this process like in a longer way? Yeah, of course. We can use associative property. One way to think about it is to multiply these two first, and then whatever that answer is, multiply by this one right here. So you're only multiplying two polynomials at a time. So let's see. So multiply two binomials first. So as when we are multiplying three numbers, we don't actually multiply three numbers at a time. We will multiply only, like if you're multiplying 2 times 3 times 5, nobody, no matter how fast the person is, will multiply three numbers at a time. The person will multiply two of them, doesn't matter which two, that'll be 6, and then that answer times the other number. So here we're going to use the same idea. We're going to multiply those two first, and then whatever that answer is, we'll multiply by this mn plus 4. Okay, so let's pay attention to how it's done. Keep forgetting that this is the arrow right here. So first, I'm multiplying mn plus 1 times mn minus 2. So when I do that, I get this answer here. So notice the third one is still the same, so I haven't changed that at all. I'm still simplifying this here. So combining like terms, there are two terms with mn, the blue terms can be put together. Negative 2 plus 1 is negative 1, and the other two are the same. So now that I finished multiplying those first two, it's only now when I'm multiplying by the third one. So now I will distribute that um, red, blue, and green term for the binomial that is to the right. So first the red times the binomial, then the blue times the binomial, then the green times the same binomial, right? And so it's a long process, yes, I understand, but it is not complicated. I want you guys to make a difference. It's long, which does not mean it's complicated. And it helps you when you have these type of exercises to help your concentration. So for how long can you concentrate? Okay. For and how organized you can set up things. So after you combine like terms, this is what you get, and that's what your final answer is. Okay. So now please try to see if you can do these two problems. You will find those in your test. I will not assign them, but the beauty of this is that you can check your answers there, after you finished. So that's it for right now, and I hope that you guys will do the practice grade after this. So let's see.